Another builder collapses. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Heiser Says. Today I'd like to talk about an article I read in the Financial Review about Strongbuild and their collapse. Now this is quite interesting for me because I have extensive experience in volumetric modular construction. We've worked on over $50 to $70 million, I can't be bothered doing the sums right now, worth of these buildings. We've got a lot of experience in it. Let's have a look at this article and the warnings that the owner is giving us. So Strongbuild collapses. Prefab industry needed to save 200,000 construction jobs. So he's calling for a growth for our prefabricated industry here in Australia. Australia will lose as many as 200,000 construction jobs if it does not set up a viable prefabrication construction industry over the next decade. Now, prefabrication is different to traditional construction. The buildings are built off-site in a factory. Now, people seem to think, fantastic, you'll get all the automation of a factory, you'll get all these great savings, all these benefits. It'll be better for the environment. Yeah. No, not at all. You've got to realize a few things. I've only met one prefabricated manufacturer that was using robotic technology similar to a car manufacturing facility. He was very competitive, but he went bust. He couldn't compete, and you'll see some of the issues that occur on these projects here. Other prefabricated builders or modular builders use conventional construction techniques off-site. So they'll build it as a volumetric module in the factory, same labor, same wastage, with extra steel and extra transportation, and then you won't get the same height or benefits. And then you've got the components that are prefabricated either off-site here in Australia or off-site overseas and shipped in. When you're shipping things in from overseas, there's a few risks. Number one is, will you actually get what you pay for? Will they abide by their contracts? That's number two. Number three, safety. We all remember when the wiring was brought in by Masters and it started catching fire and didn't meet any of the standards that it supposedly met. We've got the aluminium cladding that's been brought in, the composite panels that's been catching fire. It's spreading fire up the facades of buildings, causing all these issues. That's another one. The problem is, as an architect or a designer, you can specify a particular product, but that can all change later. So let's get back to this article. So Australia may lose as many as 200,000 construction jobs if it does not set up a viable prefabricated construction industry. I already read that. Pardon me. The collapse last week of Strongbuild showed Australian construction would lose more jobs, up to a quarter of its total, if it did not change the procurement and the risk practices that pushed Sydney-based prefabrication pioneer under, says Mr. Chandler. The builder, 30 years ago, of New Parliament House in Canberra and now an adjunct professor in construction management at Western Sydney University, said. So he's obviously experienced and able to assess the situation. So we could call him an expert. We've got 5 years to get a strategy in place and it'll be game over by 2013, Mr. Chandler told the Australian Financial Review. Well, yeah, that's the thing. We're not as competitive even in the prefabricated construction as other countries. And shipping is a lot cheaper than it ever was. You know, the whole EU, the economic zone in the European Union, was set up to get trade block advantages, but it kind of fell apart because international shipping, container shipping, was invented. It was much more competitive than in previous times. If 40% of what we do today goes off-site, that's 400,000 people. If half of that goes offshore, it's 200,000 jobs. We will live at other ends of sea containers. We'll live. We will live? We'll live. Oh, well, I've encountered this. On all our projects, we try and specify Australian manufactured, locally made, just so we can be certain, you know, we're supporting Australian workers or that we're getting replacement parts. It's impossible to do now. Less and less. More and more manufacturers, even Australian brands, are offshoring all their manufacturing because it's just so expensive to do in this country. While prefabricated or off-site construction manufacturing, as Mr. Chandler calls it, is the key to cheaper procurement in a country where building costs are up to 30% more expensive than they should be, it requires more upfront planning, longer lead times, and a willingness by lenders and clients to pay suppliers and subcontractors earlier than they do under traditional construction, where payments are typically only made for work done or supplied on site. So that's when you're procuring a building, you pay money every month essentially. You'll go out there and you'll assess the claim. So the builder will give you a claim as you're administering the contract, and then you'll go out there and check to make sure they've actually done the work that they're claiming for. Because if the builder goes bust, you don't want your client to have spent more money than what they've actually received. But with this model, say you're ordering a whole lot of bathrooms offshore, you need to pay up front a lot more to get those delivered, so it's a higher level of risk. Sure, you can get insurances in place and bank guarantees to mitigate all that risk, but it's just depending on how fast or unorganized the construction project is or the team is, that can be an issue. With his company in administration and a sales process underway for the manufacturing arm that produces cross-laminated timber as well as lightweight timber panels and joinery, so we're seeing here. Strongbuild former managing director Adam Strong was this week reluctant to talk in detail about what went wrong. I don't blame him. The requirements on working capital was intense, but the failure of other companies shows how it can go wrong. David Michael was the founder of Bedrock Offsite, a modular bathroom supplier that went into liquidation in April. Wow, more and more of these are going down. I think a lot of them came up during the mining boom we had here in Australia. There's all these modular camps built, and we've designed a lot of them. We worked on a lot of volumetric buildings out of the mines, manufactured here in southeast Queensland and trucked all the way up to remote Queensland. And a lot of them appeared. Everyone wanted to make their fortune in it. And then the price of minerals dropped and the expansion plans were either stopped or finished. So high-rise delays, they've moved into high-rise. His Sydney-based company failed after 2 large orders for separate high-rise residential projects were delayed in short succession. It was a $3.5 million order. We'd signed the contract, oh I know what that's like, and completed the design. So he's done all the design work. I procured $500,000 worth of materials. There was 1 week's notice. Oh, you're kidding. I was informed they wouldn't require the modules for 2.5 months because their project was delayed. Damn. And he has to carry all that money, all that staff, all that team. That's why being a builder can be tough. He had a second order worth $3 million, and to tide his manufacturing business over, he was at the time interviewing about another 30 staff to add to his existing 70. Asked the second client if they could start production early to help with cash flow. His factory cost $25,000 a day to run. That's not that high actually for 100 staff. They said, we've been meaning to call you. We have a 9-month delay in our project and wouldn't require your product until September. I had no protection. So it shows you the challenges of working in this industry. And it's all over in construction. Lots of trade, even small trade for normal build, will have to, cash up or tool up to start on a project. And you can say, oh, well, why don't you do it till you get a deposit, or why don't you do it till you get a guarantee? Sometimes you got to just take the risk with goodwill because it's so competitive in this game. I can relate to all of this. Lenders are also cautious. Banks are wary about prefab residential. Mr. Holland, the chairman of non-bank lending, Balmain Corporation, said, often people do prefab stuff and get the modules, the molds wrong, and you can end up with stuff in the wrong places, electric socket on ceilings and not on the wall. I don't know what the hell he's talking about here. Electric sockets on ceilings and not on the walls. So he obviously hasn't dealt with any quality ones, or probably not an architect actually drawing it all up properly, every elevation, every detail, cross-checking it with all the steel, coordinating it with it. So what's happened is they're going on the cheap and they're getting a shitty product. That gives the whole prefabricated sector a bad name, so lenders are afraid to go into it. Which, because you get a good, cheap prefabricated module and you can use that. Australia's far behind. Payment mechanisms need to be in place to allow manufacturers to be paid early, yes, but to guarantee clients in the event of failure or faulty product. Britain has such an insurance scheme called BOPAS, but Australia was still far behind. But you can do that on a contract by contract basis. You can get insurance in place yourself to do it. Why do we need the state to regulate it? But anyway, Adam Strong has been a real pioneer, Mr. Chandler said, but the traditional custom and practice of the industry has worked against him. We've got a lot of structural issues that need to be sorted out. So I thought I would share this with you guys because it's interesting what's happening in this sector. I know a few of them that have gone under, a few builders as well that have gone under at the moment, and the challenge that we have to change our working processes, our procurement processes, to kind of remain competitive on a global scale. You can say, oh, shut it up, don't allow them to bring anything in. People will find ways. If it's cheaper, if it's easier, they'll find ways to do it. And I think Australia needs to adapt, or we're going to lose those potentials. Or it could also be a sign of the times, particularly with residential development projects getting delayed in Sydney and Melbourne, with the economy starting to slow down a bit and a bit of uncertainty around our next election. But guys, let me know what you think. Do you think Australia's got a chance to compete in this sector? Can we be like Germany with their prefabricated construction industries? Or is China going to overtake us with their capacity? Are people just going to get everything bought in? Are we going to lose the skills of manufacturing here in Australia if they're just putting together stick boxes? Guys, take care. Please like, share and subscribe, and I will see you all again next time. Bye for now. Hang on, my thing's gone missing. Okay, wait, there's my outro. Bye for now.